Hi, this is Bonnie with TLC Inspirations, and today we're sewing together a couple of quilted squares. We're going to do it with a finishing strip or sashing or trim strip, whatever you want to call it. I have my quilted squares here with my batting that has been sewn in using a strip quilting method. So in order to connect these two squares and continue to make my quilt, I have some fusible tape. You can get it on Amazon. And then I have two strips of fabric. Now I've cut one at 1.25 inches and the other a scant smaller, like 1 1/8 inches. Now the wider one will go on the back side of my square and the other one will be on the front. You want your back one to be just a little bit bigger, and you'll see why as we go. So I've put one on the back and one on the front with right sides together and 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to sew these two strips on one square, the wider one on the back side and the less width on the front side. Again, right sides together. So my square is actually sandwiched between these two strips. So once I get this sewn, clip my threads, and then you can see how this looks. I've got one square now that has these two strips, one on the front side and one that's a little bit wider on my back of my square. So it's sandwiched in between these two strips. 1/4 inch seam. And then to connect these now, you're going to take the back one and lay it out flat. And you're going to take the top one, and that's where you're going to connect the square. You're going to put right sides together, the right side of your quilt square and the right side of the top strip, the raw edges together, like so. And after you've pinned it, and then go sew it together 1/4 inch again, and your seams should come just together, just touching. If you have one overlapping the other, then you may have to trim off a little bit. Now, your back piece, iron the edge of it 1/4 inch, and this is what's going to go over your seam and cover it. The first thing we're going to do, just to create stability, is with our fusion tape. The tape that I have is a little bit wide, so I cut it to length and then I cut it in half as far as width. So I have about 1/2 inch width. And make sure you get the right side down when you go. This is an iron-on. So the little bumpy side is the side that goes down, because those are little bumps of glue. And so you press it with your iron, like so. And that kind of reinforces your seam and makes it nice and smooth and brings it together. Now you can fold that other strip over, and you can sew this by hand with a hidden hem stitch along the edge if you prefer, or if you're making a quilt totally by hand, obviously you'd want everything to be sewn by hand, so you would just do a hem stitch across there. If you're going to do it by machine, what we're going to do is turn it over. Once you've got it pinned in place and everything, we're going to sew it in the ditch. And that means that your needle's going to run right in between the two pieces of fabric in the ditch of that seam. And it will create a top stitching on the back side of the quilt, but it'll be hidden on the front side. So sewing in the ditch is like so. You're going to use your sewing machine guide and guide your needle right in that little trench and sew it all the way down, and make sure you have your your strip pinned before you do this. So it's in place, and that's really all there is to connecting these squares in this manner. Continue to sew in the ditch until you've gone all the way to the end, and this is the finished result. And you just keep on connecting your squares in the same manner. You can use the same strip, different strips. Once you get a row of squares, then you would connect your rows in the same manner. You can see the top stitch on the back side, and no stitch showing on the front side whatsoever. So again, you can connect your rows the same way. It's really easy, really fast, and I hope you will give it a try, because I'm anxious to continue my quilt and see what happens. I thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.